Good evening, this is Avraham Shira from Exile. Tonight we're going live on Facebook because we've started a new Torah in Likutei Moharan, Rabbi Nachman's masterwork. And it is such an essential Torah for expanding our consciousness and achieving the levels that we know are within us, but find difficulty in actualizing them. Of course, and the basic idea is in the headline, miracles and faith in miracles. The two of these concepts are interchangeable, they're symbiotic, they're feeding each other. That if you have faith, it will lead to miracles. And if you believe it, and if you have miracles, it's going to strengthen your faith. And it works backwards and forthward. And the Rebbe, he begins the Torah with the basic idea that exile itself is because of a lack of faith. That exile is when your essence is hidden. And there are many, many, many levels of exile, right? Exile means you're not in your homeland, or you're not even in your house. Exile also means that something has been sent away, far away. Exile also means that a person was sent to a foreign city as a punishment. Exile is also a self-imposed state that great sages have gone on 7-year journeys because the divine presence herself is in exile. And in an attempt to mimic or to become like the divine presence, we have to experience what she feels and what she experiences. These are all concepts of exile. When we lack faith, we automatically are not home. And faith, of course, there's the big faith in the creator of the universe, and there's all many types of little faiths. There's the faith in ourselves, that's not so little. There's the faith in the rabbis. There's the faith in the holiness of Eretz Israel. There's the faith in the mission of the Jewish people. Faith, of course, in the laws of the Torah, that it's not, the rabbis aren't just throwing the book at us, because he knows we need to be kept in line. No, faith has so many places that it goes that it is really an endless list of what you can have faith in. And the Rebbe brings this famous verse, Shachein ba'aretz v'ra'ei emunah, dwell in the land and shepherd faith. He tells us that Eretz Israel is the place where faith is developed. It is the place of miracles. It's the place where prayers go up. This land is a spiritual, historical portal for divine energy to reach a new level. Anybody who comes here feels it. They might not know what they're feeling, but certainly religious people who've studied the concepts know that something's going on. And even if you're not religious, and even if you haven't read all the books, in your heart, when you step off that plane and you go to that hotel or wherever you go, you sense there's something alive here that isn't elsewhere. And that's part of the fact that this is a spiritual portal. In other words, meaning that we can more easily transfer our energy above, that we can more easily access the spiritual system that brings life force down to earth. And life force is what it's all about. Life force is the desire to get up in the morning, the desire to achieve, to accomplish, to give, to grow, to build, to be joyous. All of that depends on having a sense of the desire itself, to live and to enjoy life and to be grateful. All of that is happening when we do the work of elevating our prayers. And elevating our prayers simply means that we say the prayer with such intention and focus that we know that it's going to be taken to the right place and used for the right reason. Now, the idea of praying with intention is something that we've covered in many classes on YouTube, on Patreon, on Web Yeshiva, different places that I appear once in a while. The essential item of intention is that you want to have a good intention. Because we know, our minds are up and down. This is the ADD generation. What are we going to do? We're focused and then we're unfocused and then we're focused on something else. And it's, and our minds are being pulled in 1,000 directions at once. So just to want to have intention is the proper intention. Now, of course, you can open up the books of Kabbalah and then give you pages of intentions of what you should be thinking and feeling when you pray to Hashem. Next week, I'll be giving a live radio talk about the Beit HaMikdash and why this is important, about the destruction on Tisha B'Av and the rebuilding and all the interconnections of why Har HaBayit, the mount of Moriah, where God revealed himself to Abraham and many other people, is so important and central to all world religions. So that'll be on Israel Talk Radio on Tuesday morning. But anyways, so this idea of having faith leading to miracles, well, it starts with faith in our prayer. And Rabbi Nachman says the reason our prayers don't get answered is because we don't really believe in what we're doing. I believe in the idea. I believe in the words. I believe in the holy people who came before me. But me, sitting here alone in my room, does God really hear me? Does God really care? This is a question that the other side throws at us time after time, until we know that he wants our prayers more than we want to pray. And so this idea of having faith in our prayers is exactly what we need when we enter the portal of Eretz Israel. That this place is only run by miracles. And anybody who's learned the history of Eretz Israel knows that nothing here works by the rules of nature. Now, what we've also seen is when our faith falls, we enter Galut again, and we get sent out. Now, this happened to Abraham 4,000 years ago. He asked God, how will I know, b'ma edah? How will I know that you will fulfill your promise? And the rabbis say that one two-word question, b'ma edah, God said, okay, Abraham, you had a fall in faith. Now you're going to have to fix that. And how do you fix that? By going into exile, by leaving the land of faith, entering Egypt, which is the land of, well, the Rebbe calls it the land of no faith. It's the land of the koach hateva, the power of nature itself. Well, everybody believes in the Nile. The Nile fills up every year and it floods the fields and everything grows and we have food. So we praise the Nile. And, forgetting the one who created the Nile and everything else around it. So going to exile is a part of the repair of faith. Now, the truth is, the rabbis are very strict about this, and yet we are very relaxed. The rabbis say anybody who lives outside the land is as if they don't have a God. Now that is a harsh statement to any believing person. What do you mean? Because I live in New York, I'm a Jew in LA, Miami Beach is my home, but I go to synagogue every day. What? It's as if I don't have a God? Of course I have a God. I'm praying to him every day. So what do they mean? And why does it say, Kol mi shadar be'eretz Yisrael? Anybody who lives in the land, it's as if he has a God. So what does as if mean here? Either I have a God or I don't. So one of the ways that we can answer this question, this difficulty, is by understanding. As if I don't have a God, it means I do, but I'm not really listening to his agenda. There is an agenda to the mitzvot. There is an agenda to the 10 commandments. The first commandment is believe in him. Way at the bottom of the list is don't desire other people's stuff. Right? That's not the number one thing. That's number 10. Right? Number 6 is don't murder. So there's a prioritization of the concepts that were presented through the mitzvot. And the mitzvah of living in Eretz Israel is very high on the list when God gave us back the land after 2,000 years. Now look at all the manipulations that had to take place for the Jews to actually declare a state here. It started in 1910, but it started, of course, before then with Theodore Herzl, but in 1910, finally a little letter from in the name of the Queen and the King of England, etc. The Balfour Document. It's just a letter that said that the Jews should have a homeland in Israel. Nowadays, that letter would just be, stuffed under the pile. But that was enough to give people more faith that we are supposed to be here. And many, many other people around the world have corroborated the idea that the Jews are supposed to be in Israel. Okay, that's an act of faith. So if I live in Chutz La'aretz and I'm not making, at least wanting to live, I can live in Monsey, I can live in Brooklyn, but I have to want to at least live in Eretz Israel. Now, if I have a mission, if I have a purpose for being there, then that's a different story. So this statement has to be taken apart in its pieces. Now, if you live in the land, it's as if you have a God. You could also not have one but live here. Right? That happens as well. So the Rebbe says the solution for these things is miracles. Most people think, and I know I did a few years back, that the reason I get a miracle when I need one is because I have faith in God. But that's kind of like the juvenile version of the metaphysics, right? I have faith in God, so he does me a favor and does me a miracle. Rabbi Nachman says the opposite. He says, no, your faith is fallen, so God does you the miracle in order to build your faith. Because a miracle is a temporary event. And faith is a continuous energy outflow from a person's mind according to their belief system. So when I have faith in something, it's a perpetual situation in the mind that's creating a field of energy that becomes a reality in my life. So, faith leads to miracles, and miracles lead to greater faith. And so they're feeding each other, going higher and higher and higher. Now, sometimes we think, I need a miracle, I need to win the lottery. That might not be a miracle. It might seem like one, but it depends on who you are and what your mission is. If you don't need $10 million, then that's not your mission. And if you have a mission that requires that money, then you'll get the 10 million. But we think in terms of money first and status and wealth and comfort and all these things. But really, those are not high on the priority list. The high on the list is having awe and love of God and humanity, and raising a healthy family, and living a dignified, noble life, and having the proper priorities. What comes first? What comes second? The rabbis ask a question. If you have one cake left, and you're serving dinner, and you have your rabbi at the table, and you have your father at the table, who gets the cake? The rabbis ask this question. Now you might think, well, let's see. My rabbi is a person who's teaching me Torah, and my father is someone who gave me life and supports me. All things being equal, of course. Who should get the cake? So a lot of people answer, your father. He's the one who brought you up. He's the one who invested years of effort in making you who you are, or at least helping. And your rabbi, okay, you went to classes and you learned material and you took on mitzvot and you advanced in your studies and in your service, became a better person. So the rabbi certainly has a lot there. The rabbis are very clear. They say, no, the cake goes to your teacher, not your father. Why? Because your father gave you this world, and your teacher will give you a place in the world to come. In other words, by transforming yourself into a godly person, you will inherit a piece of a new divine plane that is just waiting to happen. We can see this earth is getting tired and worn out, and there's going to be a new renewal of all the powers. And we're not going to return to a better situation than it was after COVID's over. No, we're going on a quantum leap here. And I believe that this entire world virus is only to clean out the engine to get us started again on a much higher track that humanity needs, because otherwise we wouldn't change. And you look around what the moral behavior of our generation is, you think, well, who wants to continue like this? How are we going to build on this? So Hashem sends a little problem, a little virus, and everybody has to stop what they're doing and take a good look. Now that's a broad picture, and it's difficult for some people to hear, I'm sure. But if you look at the bigger agenda, that there's something much better coming, you've got to get rid of the old foundation before you can build something new. Okay. So anyway, so when you have that difficult situation, who gets the last bagel? My best friend or my brother? Well, if he's your older brother, do you know that you're obligated to show honor to your older brother just like your father? Now, only the Torah teaches us these things. And so without these hierarchy of values, how can we possibly know how to live like dignified human beings? But faith teaches us automatically, leads us to seeing the miracle, seeing the presence of our real teacher, the teacher of the entire universe. He shows his hand. And we call that in Torah, Hashgacha Pratit, divine providence. Now, divine providence is when God comes out of hiding, either through an overt event or through a thought. The right thought at the right time can lead you to tremendous success. As if you read any of these success stories, you'll see that oftentimes people's lives hinged on one decision and everything changed because they made that right decision at the right time. And that right decision at the right time was because they had the right thought at the right time and they acted on it. So God revealing himself can be in your mind, it could be in your speech, it could be in your mailbox, it could be on your phone, it could be on the TV, it could be on your report card in graduate school. It could be in your bank account, for that matter. But the revealing of the hand is only to give us more faith. Say, no, what are you worried about? You're worried about these trillionaires that control the world banking system? Is that what you're worried about? I control them. I control their banks. I'm not worried about them. Why are you? Why aren't you looking at me? And so Hashem knows. He knows what's going on. He doesn't fall for fake news, and he doesn't fall for the wrong conspiracy theories. We're going to be doing another class on Facebook soon, which is Conspiracy in the Bible. There's a whole conspiratory story with King David and his sons, and that'll be it's a very interesting read and a take on teaching us about conspiracies in general. For seems to be something's going on. Everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's arguing about their opinions, of course. So we're going to be looking at that this week also. But this first Torah that we just began, Torah Zion, the seventh Torah of Likutei Moharan, Rabbi Nachman's master work, he's going to take us on a journey of faith. And we're going to understand so much more about this relationship between faith and miracles, between God hiding and revealing himself. Because, if you don't hide yourself, there's no more revelation. If you're always in revelation, there's no more sense of the wonder of creation. So there has to be a hiding, and of course there has to be a revealing. Now, along this Torah, we've also learned that prayer is the tool of changing nature. Now, nature has its laws. We know all the laws of nature. You study science and physics just in high school is enough to basically get the ideas, right? Well, what happened in Egypt? All these plagues came down. They weren't called plagues for the Jews. They were called miracles because it forced the Egyptians to set them free. But so it depends on your take on the event. For the Egyptians, it wasn't a miracle. It was hail in the middle of summer turning into ice and fire. It was, the Nile turning to blood. It was an exaggeration of the powers of nature. So God just turned up the volume on the laws of nature and exaggerated those powers until it became a curse to one people and a blessing to another person. So this whole idea of global warming, it seems like the world's getting hotter. I don't know about you guys where you live, but it depends on your news source, obviously, but it seems like the world's getting hotter in some places and colder in other places, and there's shifts and transitions in nature patterns and weather patterns all over. Okay. We've been told about that thousands of years ago, that in the times of the Messiah, nature will go berserk. And so, as a Jew who studies the books, we're not surprised because we understand that the book is not given to us as a study assignment. It's given to us to build our faith in the system in which we live. Okay, so when you have prayer, then you understand how to hack the system. When you have real prayer, when you have God's ear, when you know you can go into God's heart because He's in your heart, then you can change nature. Now, changing nature means that it should be some way and it ends up another way. And we have this idea in Hasidic philosophy that anything that happens can be turned to good, no matter how bad it looks. Now, today, a good friend of mine just down the block, he found his daughter lying face down in a pool, and she was on her way out. And he pulled her out, and the medics came, and they took her to the hospital, and thank God now she's coming out of it. She was unconscious. And right now things look pretty good. And everybody's still praying, but you see what happened? Immediately the entire community starts saying Tehillim, the Psalms, praying to God for this little girl who's like 3 years old, right? Praying that He saves her life. Now, it looks like this little girl is going to be fine and no damage or anything like that. But the point, you see that, why did things like happen? This guy is a wonderful guy that it happened to. And his family, they're working as hard as anybody else to make it go here in Eretz Israel. Sometimes God does the miracle in order to wake us up, in order to make us pray, in order to make us say Tehillim for somebody else and stop thinking about myself 24/7. Sometimes. So we have to understand that our prayers have impact, and if it's not today, it's tomorrow. And maybe your prayer is so precious to God, He uses it to save somebody else. And maybe He puts your prayers in a bank account for a later date when you're going to need it more, because He knows other things are coming down the road. So we really, really have to open up our lens here and look at the big picture as big as we can take it, as big as we can take it, because sometimes it gets a little too big, you just break up, before Hashem, you suddenly find yourself weeping from the greatness of the presence of God. And that is a gift. And that is given to us when we engage this process. So we have to believe in our prayer, and our prayer hacks the system, and it brings down new light into the darkness, and it changes nature. Now, if you don't believe me, I could tell you so many stories from my own life. It would be a little bit self-involved, shall we say. But I've written about these things, and it'll be published in various times and places. But the point, the real point, the little stories help us. One night my daughter had whooping cough. 100 days that cough lasts. It'll drive you insane, that cough. Because they cough all night and they seem okay in the daytime, and at nighttime it comes back. And one night I got up and I screamed at God. I screamed. The next day the cough was gone. The next night, no cough. So I believe that prayer really pushed the cough right out of her. Or at least pushed God to push the cough out of my little girl. So, if we pray, you've got to believe in it. Why bother otherwise? Am I just making a show of being religious? I'm just kind of looking good? No, looking good is not what it's about here. It's about accessing the tools that are given to us to change nature, to prove God's presence is flowing through us. That's the whole gig. God wants us to see that it's Him through us. And we need to see it. And then we believe it. And then our faith produces more and more and more miracles. And the system keeps feeding itself. Greater faith, greater miracles, greater faith, greater miracles. One after the other. The essential item of faith, Rabbi Nachman teaches us in this Torah, and it's taught many, many times, is that God is the one who renews the world every day. In His goodness, He always renews the workings of creation is a Kabbalistic phrase for the way infinite light is brought down here into finite vessels. Little tiny capsules of life force that we can use. Okay, that's called Maseh Bereshit, how the infinite becomes finite. The essential faith is that this process is constantly happening, that it's always becoming new, and I am privy to that, I'm part of that, I'm becoming new. I just turned 60 years old, and I feel like I'm 35. At least in my heart and my mind. Maybe not my back. I don't know. Got to change that mattress. But the point is, of course, is that when God is new and you're attached to Him, you become new. Constantly becoming new. And that faith in the renewal feeds the renewal. And if I don't have faith in the renewal, then I'm stuck in a dying system. So we don't want to go there. We don't want to be part of that. We want to be part of a living, revitalizing, continuously new system. And how do you know it? You look at the earth. When you put garbage in the ocean spits it out. You cut your finger heals. A species dies off and it starts to die off, and weather changes and patterns change, and suddenly there's new strength in the ecosystem to save a species. The world is a continuously self-healing system, and so are we. Now, maybe we don't eat right, and maybe we don't drink right and sleep right and do a lot of things right, and so we're kind of like, we're breaking the way the system works best. But it's still making efforts to renew us constantly, every day. B'kol yom, mechadesh b'tuvo, tamid maseh bereshit. So, it's really an amazing thing to witness. When these ideas that come alive in your mind, you become a new person. You're no longer stuck in your past. Your past is just a chapter in a very big, long book. And you have many more chapters to come. And so with that faith, automatically what? You get that miracle, that revelation, that moment of aha, that moment of, yeah, I know that's from God. I was out in the forest praying the other night, and my daughter had just gotten married, and I said, Chabad comes through again, because she had gone away from religion and come back to religion, and Chabad had helped her and helped my son-in-law, and because Chabad is everywhere, everybody knows that, right? So I said, thank God for Chabad. And right as I went, thank God for Chabad, a comet went straight over my head. Straight over my head. As I said those words. So is that a miracle? Well, I don't know. Is it? Maybe. Maybe not. I guess we get to define it, don't we? But for me, the timing of the comet coming down out over my head as I'm saying those words of gratitude about this world Jewish organization that's helped so many people. The timing is the ikar. If the sea had split a day later, or a day earlier, I should say, I don't know. If 3 million Jews got to the Red Sea and the water didn't split, no miracle, no story. Or if the sea had split a week later, no story. It's all in the timing of when the confluence of forces meets and there's a transformation in nature. When you speak and a comet flies over your head, that's enough to say something's going on. And maybe it only happened so I could tell you the story here tonight. And that's good enough for me. So, we have to look for the moments, and they will build our faith again, and the system keeps feeding itself. So this is really a blessing I feel, to live this way. I was a secular person for 30 years. Now 30 years I've been inside the Welt, as they say. Let's see what happens the next 30. But I want to bless all of you to have that faith. A little bit of faith will lead to the miracle. And that little miracle, if you're just willing to see it, will build your faith to do it again. And keep talking to God. And tell Him to reveal His hand. Show your cards, God. The game is over. We need a new hand here. Let's see what you got. Ask God to show Him what He's got for you. And when He shows you, then it's your turn to show your cards. And your cards mean what you're going to do for the rest of the world and for His system and for the presence of the oneness and the greatness and the glory that is inside all of creation. God bless all of you. We're going to continue on our daily Patreon class. Please check it out. We've got a lot of stuff over there and on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you can become a member, that would be great. We're supporting, so far not a nickel's hit my pocket, but it's gone all into production. So that's okay too, because that's the way it should be. At least for now. We'll talk about the future. But we thank you all, and we bless you to continue the work, because we are on the brink of a tremendous breakthrough. It's going to happen soon. We don't know how soon, but we know it's happening. And everything that people are suffering now is a preparation for a new world, a new us, a new race. God bless all of you. We'll see you tomorrow night.